just that swim cap so you look fly at the swimming pool, aka the card pool. I'm your host, Stu.
And I'm Kyle.
And today we're looking at a special Commander set, Commander 2014.
Yes, indeed.
And we're going to be looking at, this is our first part, meaning the hidden gems 10 through 6, and I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, I definitely am too. And you can check out future parts of our review as the episodes come out here. But so far, let's just go ahead and dive right on in.
Diving in at number 10.
All right.
And I'm going to start off with something that's just going to be fun to say. It is called Crown of Doom.
Doom.
We're not going to sing the Doom song, regrettably, but it is an artifact that costs 3 mana.
I mean, I can sing that song.
We don't have enough time. But whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, it gets +2/+0 until the end of turn. And it has the tagged on effect of, for 2 generic mana, target player other than Crown of Doom Doom's owner gains control of it. Activate this ability only during your turn. So this is a very unique inverse gifting kind of strategy because it makes it so there's a huge anthem coming at you if you're wearing this crown.
Oh yeah,
and
it's a good one too.
Yeah, it's pretty good because like honestly, there's like effects where it's like combat step janky things where this kind of triggers and people generically want this effect for their tribe, like their little weenie guys or enormous guys with Annihilator or whatever. They constantly, you want to get your creatures big. So having this as something that's going to get passed around the table, your opponents are going to waste mana on this. This is great. This is really fun.
Well, the nice thing about it is that once you get rid of it once, you're going to have to pay to play it, and then you're going to have to pay 2 to get rid of it. But once you get rid of it, it says, other than Crown of Doom's owner. So it's going to be really, really difficult for them to give this back to you. So it's pretty much just going to get passed around between opponents, which is pretty much fine for you. This reminds me of Gahiji from one of the other Commander sets, who basically promoted attacking other players and gave you the exact same bonus if you did. So as long as creatures weren't attacking you, they got +2/+0.
That's
so
awesome.
It's a very similar thing to this, except in legendary creature form. But for a deck like that, or another deck that wants this kind of ability, like even a Zedru deck might be able to use this for whatever reason.
For the ability to swap an artifact, like you're going to pay to swap this anyways, might as well get something in return more or less.
Right, exactly. So it's interesting. I'm not sure if I would play this all the time or a lot, but it's a cool card. I like it.
It's different. For this set, it had a whole different kind of style with like the interactions with politics. So I liked it for that. And I mean, one of the little things I will say that is kind of counterintuitive to this card, the only one I think that's really easy to return this is a Homeward Path. That's the only thing I can truly think of that can return this.
Yeah.
Unless it's something that blankets like return all cards to their owner's hands, like a Cyclonic Rift, for example.
Right.
But this is going to stay out. It's going to bother them. You're going to be safe. So a card like that gives you advantage and pisses your opponents off, that's always something to note in my book.
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty much only good in that sort of multiplayer politics arena, though, because if you're just using this to get a boost, you might as well just play an Anthem that's better. So yeah,
I agree.
It depends on where you're playing this at.
Yeah, but enough about my little guy. What do you got for 10?
Yeah, well, going on to my number 10, we've got Malicious Affliction. Now, this is an instant black, it costs 2 mana, double black, and it has a morbid ability. So when you cast it, if a creature died this turn, you can then copy this card and choose a new target for the copy, and the card's ability is just straight up destroy target non-black creature. So I'm not usually a fan of the standard by-the-numbers Doomblade type effect in a format like Commander, because you want something flashier, you want some more bang for your buck than something like that. And Doomblade itself, which this is pretty much a copy of, Doomblade doesn't even kill everything. It's the whole non-black creature thing. It kind of is really unfortunate sometimes. However, this is potentially a double Doomblade for 2 mana, which that starts approaching something like Reckless Spite, which is a card I would absolutely play in Commander. So that's not bad. And what does black like to do? Have things die. Sacrifice them, get rid of them in other ways. It's really easy to turn this thing on. So, yeah, this is really a 2-for-1. If you're playing it in the right deck, should be almost every time. So I would consider it just for that.
Yeah, if you have a Grave Pack kind of deck, this should be no-brainer. You could definitely throw this in. The Morbid won't really hold you back. Morbid as a mechanic can be a little niche, because usually if a board wipe's going off, well, you're not going to activate this, but you also can't use it later because there's no creatures on the board. So it can be a little timey-wimey, but I agree. almost a better Doomblade in my stance for
Yeah,
this.
and it is notable that Morbid triggers when any creature dies, not just yours. So you could kill someone else's creature with something else, or go to combat and have one of someone else's creatures die, and then you can still use this as a double Doomblade.
Or your opponent sneak attacking, or they have a soccer tri-belter out, or
Right.
the list goes on and on. So it is very realistic for being able to be utilized.
Yeah,
totally.
in black decks, this always fights for a slot. I haven't really included it in a deck as of yet, but at some point I will, because it's a pretty good card. It really is.
I agree. Well, going on to my number 9, aka the German No. We have a white card called Hallowed Spirit Keeper. It costs 3 mana, 1 generic and double white for an avatar creature. Don't see a lot of those, but they do exist. It has a 3/2 body with vigilance. And when Hallowed Spirit Keeper dies, put X 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield, where X is the number of creatures in your graveyard. So this is a very almost sneaky card for what it does. This isn't a card for the early game, but it can work in the early game. It can repopulate your field when this dies. And now this gets caught up in the crossfire in a board wipe. Well, yeah, you're just going to repopulate your field. And all these other cards that go in there are also going to go to that count. So even if this is the only card going to the grave, you'll still get one creature to come back and replace it. So it is kind of just awesome on its own for that fact. But if you're going ahead and filling up the grave crazy, like in a Gav deck more or less, or something like that, something that doesn't mind filling the grave, this is perfect in there.
Yeah, that's the thing. This card really kills me because I really like it and I really want to like it, but there's just a number of things with it that I find less than satisfactory. One, why is this not a spirit? It would be so much better if this was a spirit. Why?
Yeah, it can go in that tribal kind of stuff with that too so well.
And also, white decks, or decks that include white in them, aren't generally known for having huge graveyards. Which, the idea of this is you want to have a huge graveyard so you can maximize the potential of this. Like, your Sigarda deck would love this if you had a consistent way to sacrifice your creatures or something.
Or a Magetta the Lion who's constantly discarding stuff, but there are mill decks that it could affect this and also get some value.
Not very many. It's always, like I said, I really like this card, and in your average graveyard type deck, you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck and a large return on this, but yeah, I want to find a home for it. I just haven't yet. I haven't.
Alesha, who smiles at death, cares about power 2 or 3.
It's power 2, so unfortunately it wouldn't work there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I agree with you.
3/2 for 3 with Vigilance already is pretty good. So,
and it can replace itself. I like it a lot. I think it can do a lot of damage with it. For, again, Magetta the Lion is one that completely just, you discard cards like crazy and you bring them back. And white's known for grave recursion, so it could work. There might just not be the right commander yet for it.
Yeah,
so.
not yet. I don't think yet. If we get a white, we need a white commander that really likes the graveyard for whatever reason.
Or Boros, or like, I mean, Orzhov inherently could work with that.
Orzhov is the one place I actually have played this in the past, in something like a Teysa Karlov type deck.
A Death and Taxes or something like that. Yeah, where it's like you don't mind sacking stuff. So
yeah.
But also to note, this doesn't say it has to be exiled. Usually for this kind of effect, that's tacked on. It's like when this hits the grave, exile it, now you get this advantage. So this thing can be reoccurred and constantly, I mean, it could probably be a token engine if you're using it the right case.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because, I mean, this is 2 defense, toughness. Yeah. You could bring this back with Revelar, can't you? Or that's power as well?
I think that's power, yeah.
I'm missing it by just that much. I'm sorry.
There are plenty of
things
you
Sun
can do
Titan, you could also use Karmic Guide to get this back, and you can get the value engine going. So. Yep. I mean, honestly, if you have like a Sun Titan, there was the one aura we had, the white enchantment where it's like when a creature goes from the field to the graveyard, bring it back out.
Oh right, the Sigil of the New Dawn.
Sigil of the New Dawn. Yeah. So if you can get this thing out, it keeps dying. You grow a crazy field with this. Yeah. So that could be a little combo wombo for you. But you're number 9, Kyle.
Yeah, let's move on to my number 9 here, and this one is our first legendary creature, Stitcher Geralf. Now, this was the first attempt at Geralf. There have been others since then. And this one's interesting, because it's a 5-drop, 3 colorless, 2 blue, legendary human wizard, and he's a 3/4. He has an ability which allows him to, for 2 generic, 1 blue, and a tap ability, each player mills the top 3 cards of their deck to the graveyard. Then you exile up to 2 creatures from any graveyards that were put into the graveyard this way. You put an XX blue zombie token into play, where X is the total power of the cards exiled. So this is kind of interesting. It's really weird. A sort of cool commander option for mono blue that doesn't involve locking people out with infinite combos or counter spells, which as I'm a blue player at heart, but as much as I love playing blue, I don't like the way blue has to win, which is basically through combos and jank. I don't like that.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You use them all the time.
Yeah, but I like being more creative than that. I don't like just playing counterspell after counterspell and not letting people play the game.
That's a can of worms right there. I'm not going to open that, but...
But anyway, this is a really interesting alternative to those. And again, I've played with this to some extent, and it's just shy of being good in my opinion, but it is interesting at the very least. It's a bit expensive to use and play, but it's one, a interesting mill variant commander, two, it's potential grave hate, and it makes giant tokens all at the same time, because there are decks that like to make tokens, especially big ones.
So this is also, I like this card, even though it's blue, I like it because it's more creature-oriented. You don't really see that in blue.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about this is you could potentially... I would like this as a tribal, kind of like Octopus or Leviathans kind of thing. Like, there's that one quest card that's out there. It's like, you could go ahead and use this, put some big power out there into the graveyard, get some good stuff going out there, and kind of utilize that stuff. Because, I mean... Kendrick Leviathan's a great card. You can throw it in almost any deck as like a backup kind of to Cyclonic Rift as a creature variant. So if you go ahead and you're using something like that with this guy, there's not much of a minus you're really throwing in with this. And also for the added tacked on ability to like exile your opponent's creatures is not necessarily just yours. So inherently you can still build up the grave, get the value you want, like throw a Wander in the graveyard. Now all your stuff's even more evasive, you got more stuff going with it. You could do a workaround, but not with instants and sorceries. This would be more of a creature kind of style.
And the place where I like this is in a Temet Vizier of Noctamoon deck, because that creature
How do you
makes
remember that name?
Well, hey, because I've played with the cards.
It just is unfathomable
but
to me.
What you make that the idea of that deck is to make big tokens, which then become unblockable and can get boosted. So Geralf is actually a pretty cool part of something like that, because not only can you use your own creatures, you can use other people's creatures, and you can make giant unblockable tokens, which is pretty good.
Yeah,
so
I like it for that.
It's frustrating to me, again, that it's just shy of being good. It needs a little something else there for me to really be interested in this, but it's still a cool card, and it's an interesting option for blue players to have if you don't want to just play counter spells and other stuff
if you're a green player who wants to have blue stuff, I would say this would be your route. This is my route, so I can totally relate. But moving on to a card that's fun for the whole family.
All right, what's this one?
This one is at my number 8, an artifact called Masterwork of Ingenuity. It costs 1 generic mana for an artifact equipment, and it reads, you may have Masterwork, pretty much this card, enter the battlefield as a copy of an equipment on the battlefield. Now, we see tons of clone effects. We have Clever Impersonator, we have Clone itself, where they're typically more creature-based. Now, we do have 2 that can be artifact-based. We had the Phyrexian one.
Metamorph and Sculpting Steel is the other one that you're thinking of, I'm sure.
Well, also Clever Impersonator.
That too, yeah.
So why do we want one that is an artifact solely for equipments? Well, this works in a little section of decks. We see Voltron decks where they don't mind giving out equipments. So being able to get 2 of a sword, 2 of something like a lightning grease that you need to spread the wealth on, you get the choice that most other players don't. And that gives a great value. But the best thing about this is that it's a 1-drop. A lot of 1-drop artifacts go under the radar for how easy they are to be tutored with something like a Trinket Mage, or broken with combos that like bringing stuff back from the grave and building its own engine on it. You did that to me before. I forget the exact combos for that.
And I've used this card before, and it's good. When I've built, equipment-type Voltron decks in the past, I always include this card because it's super cool. Well, yes, I would like a 1-mana Batterskull. Yeah, I would like a 1-mana Argentum Armor. It's just kind of crazy the things you can do with this. It's very powerful. It requires you having a good equipment already in play, which maybe you spent a fair bit of mana for, but still, it's good. I mean, for a 1-mana, a copy of your best equipment is great. And it's an equipment already, so you can search it up with things like Sculpting Steel, not Sculpting Steel, Steel Shaper's Gift is the one I'm thinking of, or Open the Armory or things like that. It's not even an equipment, but it is classified as one, so it makes it that much easier to tutor for. And that's pretty cool.
The only restriction on this is if you go ahead and you steal something like an equipment that has a color-specific equip cost, it's going to hold you back. That's the only thing that might be like if your opponent's got something like a Sunforger, where it's like you need to go ahead and use Boros mana to go ahead and unequip it, yeah,
Right.
you're not going to use this as a target. And this could be potentially dead in your hand, which is a valid argument, but it's a 1-drop. You can go ahead, you can lose this, you can discard it, recur it later. It's just good almost, I'd say, what, mid to late game? You can still say potentially early, depending on what's in your
Oh
hand.
yeah, if you start out with like another like 1-drop equipment, like yeah, I'll have 2 skull clamps. That seems pretty good.
Yeah, that's oppressive right there on many levels.
Yeah. So I like it. I'm a fan of this card.
I
Good
didn't
choice.
expect you to say that. I appreciate that. But yeah, going on to your 8, Kyle.
All right, number 8 for me is a card called Creeper Hulk. You're gonna like this one, Stu, because it's a green card.
Well, I like Hulk. You know, he's a cool Avenger.
So this is a 5/5 for 5, 3 colorless and double green, and it's a plant elemental with trample too, I might add. And then it has an additional ability for 1 generic and 1 green. Until the end of the turn, target creature you control has base power and toughness 5/5 and gains trample.
I like that so much right there.
Honestly, I have this card and I've played around with including it in various decks. I'm really surprised we don't see more of this card because I actually do think this is really solid.
I don't know if it's a green staple per se.
No, but in certain decks, I think I would argue it is. The base stats are pretty great. It's a 5/5 for 5 with trample. It's also an elemental, which makes it really useful on a bunch of different levels tribally. And its ability, the ability to change a creature's stats, is something you do see a little in green, but you see more of it in blue. It's really rare to see it at all. It's not something that really happens in this game.
Well, you see it here and there. All the colors technically have like their own little bit of it. Like you have humility and stuff like that, turn to frog, sure. But like throwing the trample on for 2 mana,
and it
pretty
gives
much
trample.
making a copy of this is incredible because a lot of things care about piercing damage. Like once this thing inflicts damage to a player, some effect goes off. We see that all throughout Magic. Whether it's on a commander when something happens or the card itself, like a Master of Cruelties per se.
Yeah.
So this is something, one in Elemental Tribe, but also as a plant. This could be a thing for Avengers Zendikar. It can get boosted because it is a plant.
I think the place this belongs is pretty much in any deck that heavily uses tokens, like a Rise the Redeemed deck, or what was the one? I had another one in mind. Oh yeah, Hapatra could easily use
Hapatra would love this.
Any deck that makes a lot of little 1/1 tokens, they can then become 5/5s with trample. That is really scary.
Or like what you're saying with Hapatra, a lot of things in that deck have like Wither, for example, or Infect.
Right, it just gives you that much more damage.
Well, yeah, because then that makes it so that damage is still... Yeah, exactly. I think that, this is a great card. I'm not sure where the home is, to be honest. I think tokens is a good place for it. I'm not sold on it just being that. But we'll throw it out to you guys. We'll do a little poll up there. Let us know, is this something viable in a variety of decks? Yes or no?
Yeah, the only thing that disappointed me at first was the first time I read the card, I was like, oh, you can make anything a 5/5, and I didn't realize, oh, it's only your own creatures. So
yeah, I wish so much it was everyone.
Yeah, it would have been really exciting if you'd been able to change anyone's creature size.
Well, there are some cards that do it, but not like this. And honestly, this is kind of like the enchantment we see as aestheticism almost. Where it's like the green enchantment, where it's like all your creatures can't be targeted, but
regenerate,
for 2 mana, regenerate target creature. This is almost like a creature variant.
Sort of.
Yeah, I just like the flavor of that.
Cool. Yeah.
But moving on to my number 7, and a lucky number it is with this card. It is called Domineering Will. It costs 4 mana, 3 generic, and a blue for an instant that reads, target player gains control of up to 3 target non-attacking creatures until the end of turn. Untap those creatures. They block this turn if able. So, why is this good? Well, in Commander, we have multiple players. So that means typically there's 1 person attacking and 3 who are not. So, what is the likelihood of you being able to steal something good that's not going to be suspected by anyone else? Pretty high. Especially if there's 2 players who are in the lead and you and some other player are falling behind. You can go ahead, make 1 person lose their board state, create a whole mess of politics, wipe out both boards in 1 swing, and meanwhile, you really didn't use much to do it. It's a very sneaky kind of card that you don't really see a lot in blue for this kind of cost. For like getting a cost of 1 mind control at instant speed, but for 3 creatures, this is great. Even though you only get them for 1 turn, they're probably not going to survive past that.
There are a lot of levels to this card to consider. So I'll say right off, normally I like my mind controlling effects to be permanent. I don't really love the whole
But you
one-turn
see
steal
why.
thing. However, there is great potential value here for a small cost, given that, let's consider what it says here. Target player gains control. It doesn't have to be you. It could be anybody.
Exactly.
So you could mess with anybody with this, any number of people. So you could take creatures, make people give creatures to each other, they have to block, so they're going to die. There's a lot of stuff going on here. And also, the other thing to consider with this is that, it's, like you said, non-attacking creatures. So you could even do it on your own turn. You can, on your own turn, just cast this as a sorcery, take their blockers, and then swing at them unobstructed.
Well, it is not...
Potential blockers, I should say, because they're not actually going to block.
See, the thing is, I'm not sure about this. If it is non-attacking, I'm assuming you have to be probably in the combat step for that. There might be some sort of rule in this or some oracle. Because if it has the whole non-attacking thing, it might be tacked on to that.
Well, let's look it up. No question needs to go unanswered.
No, that's fair. But yeah, you are right about this. You can potentially save a player by giving them a chump blocker. So this makes it really good for Commander, but also for Two-Headed Giant for that fact that you can make it so that you have a teammate that's no longer being killed or anything else like that. So it's just very unique for this kind of low cost. But what did it say?
Well, I've confirmed that the creatures, they just can't, it doesn't matter what phase it's in. None of that matters. As long as the creatures are not actively attacking, you can take control of them.
That's pretty wild.
But as what I just read pointed out, that is the one big strike I have against this card, other than it not being permanent, is it does not give those creatures haste. It untaps them so they can block, but it doesn't give them haste. So you can't pull a threaten where you steal the creatures and then smack the people that you just stole them from.
Okay.
You can't do that with this card because they're not going to get haste, and when creatures change control, unless they have haste somehow, they cannot attack at that point.
Well, but also you could have something like, I don't know, an Anger in the Grave or something like that.
You could, well, in which case, yes, you could, but this is not, it's not a triple threaten, unfortunately. It's not quite that good.
Shame. But this could be really great in a Zedru deck for just the whole idea, like, I'm giving you stuff, I'm taking it back, I'm like confusing the field. It would be great for any kind of Chaos deck that's using blue. And if you're not very creature heavy, if you're doing, like, I don't know, a Teferi Planeswalker Staxy thing, and you're in trouble all of a sudden, you shouldn't be, because you're running that deck, this could be a fail-safe as well. So
yeah, it's a step up from something like, there's another card called Illusionist Gambit, which was basically a worse version of this card, really. But it's also kind of a step down from something like Reigns of Power, which I think is the superior version of this. But
that's in red, though.
It's still, no, that's a blue card as well, but it's still that exchange, like everybody's creatures.
Yes, okay, that one, my bad.
I think Reigns of Power is superior, but still, this is a pretty cool card. I've considered it on many occasions.
How do you know all these cards? I didn't even see that one. But anyway, going on to your card, I've seen your card, so
okay,
take that.
Number 7, again with the green cards, I'm out of character today, apparently. But Thunderfoot Palace is my card. So it's a 6-drop, 4 colorless, 2 green, and it's a beast. 5/5 with trample, again, sensing a theme here. And it has lieutenant ability, so as long as you have your commander in play along with this guy, Thunderfoot Palace gives +2/+2 and trample to all of your creatures, including itself.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty good card, I think. It is a beast.
Yeah.
To use
it is a beast and a beast.
Yeah. So overall, we'll talk more about this in a later video, but overall, I dislike Lieutenant mechanic. I don't think it's very creative or fun or interesting, and I don't think there are many good cards that came out of it. However, this is the one. This is the one that matters.
This is not the one that matters. There is a better one that costs the white one that gives indestructibility for your commander.
Technically, that isn't Lieutenant because it's a different ability. It's not the keyword, but it is sort of a keyword ability.
It's pretty much Lieutenant.
But anyway, this card, not only does it become a 7/7 for 6 with trample when you have your commander out, but all your other creatures get bigger and have trample as well.
It gives
That's
it the anthem
incredible.
that you need.
Like, again, in the same decks that we were talking about Creeper Hulk being good, and Hapatra, Rise, decks that use a lot of tokens, this thing is a beast.
Yeah, it is a beast, especially if your commander's going to be out like in Hapatra all the time, or Rise all the time, or anything else like that. Especially if you're swinging, it's for decks that go wide. Narrow decks, something like with Rune of the Hidden Realm, where it's not as many creatures attacking out at once, unless you have that build. Take that back. But this is something, again, a deck that goes wide.
Is it as good? Well, is it as good as something like Craterhoof Behemoth? No, I'm not going to make that claim.
Yeah.
But is it the budget-friendly Craterhoof? Oh yeah, absolutely.
Without a doubt, yeah. I like it. The only thing I think it needs, which Creator Hoof has, is haste. And that's really the only thing I think that's holding this back in my book. But it's a great budget option. It worked, especially if you like a big army. Like Tristani would love this as well. This is just fun. Or even Azuri, that likes the experience counters.
Yeah.
This is just great. You play this, you get more counters. Now you got... this should be a win con in Azuri, actually.
It could be. Yeah, it's good. I
it wants
like
its
this
creatures
card.
more.
I often consider this. It's almost always in the running when I build a green deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool to know. So for number 6, I'm going to be talking a card. It's become a lot more mainstream now due to a new commander, but you'll see in a second.
You're stealing my cards. I love this one.
Well, sorry. But Fell the Mighty, as Kyle is also the card. It is a sorcery that costs 5 mana for generic and a white. Destroy all creatures with power greater than target creature's power. So this is a unique, janky kind of... It used to be a meh board wipe, but ever since Feather came out, it's become a very oppressive board wipe for the fact that it is recurable continuously.
I would argue it's not just Feather either, because while I do play this to great effect in my Feather deck, another great place to play it is in a wall tribal deck like Arcades.
That works as well.
Yeah, it can be... You can sort of have to play around it a little bit more in that deck, but still... The idea of, like I said,
Zero power creatures
I love one-sided board wipes. Used correctly, this is 100% a one-sided board wipe, or it should be.
Well,
if
it isn't, you're using it for a time that makes sense. So it's pretty much what you're saying, Kyle. Is this is a card that you can take an advantage of, where your opponent's getting nothing and you're reaping all the benefits. And for a board wipe, that's very strong.
Oh yeah,
very strong.
And it's best played, like we've said, in a deck full of low-power creatures, like an Arcades deck, or Feather for the targeting aspect, because it does have to target. It's weird. Board wipes don't normally do that.
They don't normally do that. It can be dangerous if you have something with Lightning Greaves out and it's your only creature. Well, you can't target it now. So it can be a little niche. It can be super oppressive in the right deck, as we see with Feather now. It's just something, again, as opposed to Wrath of God or Day of Judgment, what's the next board wipe you use? That's wipe. Everyone has their one that they like. I like Route personally. Kyle likes, well...
I'm a fan of, like, Cleansing Nova is one that I really, really like.
Or, like, Divine Reckoning's another one people enjoy. So this is like, well, what's your third pocket? What's that one holding? And this one is usually a contender for a lot of people.
And it says, like, target creature's power. Again, it doesn't have to be your creature. It could be somebody else's creature.
It can be somebody else's.
Again, if you don't have anything of your own out and you just really, really need to get rid of stuff, find the lowest power creature on the board and just destroy everything else.
Yeah, it's not hard to have a 1/1 token out. But also, it can spare your commander, which is a big, important part of the game. So.
Indeed.
So for number 6, Kyle, your last card for this video, what do you got?
All right. Well, for this one, I think you'll like it. It's a black card, once again,
called
Wake the Dead. And this is an X spell. So it's X and double black, and it's an instant. So you can only cast this during combat on an opponent's turn, which is kind of a weird condition. Return X target creatures from your graveyard to the battlefield. Sacrifice those creatures at the beginning of the next end step. If you really start thinking about this, I think you'll find, like me, this is crazy.
Yeah, this is kind of a little scary. I feel like this can definitely be broken, and I mean, especially if you're looking at Karmic Guide or Revelark.
The only strike against this card to me is its really weird sense of timing, which rules out a lot of possible combos and abusable potential, because if you could just play this whenever, I mean, obviously, that would be way too good to ever allow to exist. And reanimating an army of creatures to block at instant speed in the middle of someone else's turn is awesome. And you can get all kinds of good abilities. That's not even the good part. The good part is they sacrifice themselves afterward. With cards like this, normally they would then exile the creatures after you bring them back.
I agree.
But they go right back to the graveyard, so you can use them all over again. Like, what is this?
Yeah, especially if you can get this card back to your hand, it just makes it so you can have like a very strong board presence, and creatures that go ahead and bring something else back, like a Karmic Guide or anything else for that matter,
right,
those will stay on the field post this. So you inherently can get a replenished field that can be, well, semi-permanent, or you can be using stuff like Sundial the Infinite and make it so that these things can stay out for the rest of the game. So there are tons of things with this that, again, the timing of this is a little off, but the way you use it and the way your deck is built, you can oppress people with this very easily.
Yeah, this is, like, again, this is one I'm surprised I don't see more often because it is incredibly powerful if used correctly.
And it has nothing to do with the power. Usually it's X creatures where X is the power or X is the cost and the card or something like that.
Right.
This is just generic, oh, well, I'll take back this card. This one like
This one tutors, and this one does damage, and this one can
it's
sacrifice all
so
my other
much.
creatures.
Yeah, like, and even if it is on your opponent's turn, doesn't mean you can't get something to make it so, like, you're still getting advantage to have a response to this. Black tutors for anything, and how many black cards, when they enter, like, they tutor, or they sack something and they tutor, or they do this and they kill something.
Yeah,
like
you can just imagine the scenarios with this card. Bring back the mono black Sidisi, tutor something. Bring back like a Bone Shredder to kill something. Oh, I'll bring back. Meanwhile, while I'm at it, I'll bring back like God Eternal Bantu, sacrifice everything I just brought back and draw more cards.
Or Fleshbag Marauder, even like that's totally fine. And there's like at least 2 of those that exist in Magic, if not more. So it's so good. I mean, you could even everything and then add a Viscera Seer at the end of it.
Right. Just get rid of them anyway.
Yeah, sack them at your terms, get so many scries, sitting pretty. So
yeah, it's great. I love this card, really.
Yeah, I feel like I might need to get a copy of this, in all honesty. But yeah, that is a solid pick. That is the last pick of our video right now.
It is. That's the end of this video.
So we're going to do our follow-up video, which will be out next week, where we're going to be talking about the gems that we found 5 through 1, the best gems that we found in the set that we did not
de la creme.
as they say in French.
But until then, you can find us more of our content on social media. We've got pages on Reddit, Facebook, Twitter. We even got a tapped out page where we have all of our deck lists.
If you're interested.
Yeah, and if you want to talk to us directly, you can always email us at mtgthecardpool@gmail.com. We're available there too.
Indeed. Until then, I'm Stu.
I'm Kyle.
And we'll see you next time at the Card Pool. I like that card.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.